My name is Professor Nathan Alden. In the autumn of 1951, I was summoned to a town most maps have long since forgotten, Black Hollow, Vermont. The sheriff's letter spoke of strange lights over the old cemetery, livestock carved apart with surgical precision, and neighbors whispering old folklore into locked doors. He wanted a man of science to put the stories to rest. I went out of curiosity, but what I found was not something science could put away. Black Hollow sits in a valley of bare trees and granite outcroppings. When I arrived, dusk had already settled, and the streets looked deserted. Curtains drawn, lamps turned low. You could feel the fear, heavy as damp wool. At the parsonage, Reverend Knotts told me the legend. The witch lights of Black Hollow. Since colonial times, people claimed to see pale flames drifting above the graves at night. Souls of women executed as witches long ago. The Reverend admitted he never believed it, but after the cattle mutilations, even he began to wonder. Folklore, I told him. Old fears, perhaps swamp gas. But as I said it, even I felt unconvinced. The sheriff brought me to the Cray farm. The barn smelled of iron and decay. 3 cows lay open on the straw floor. No teeth marks. No tearing. Clean incisions, as though made by a surgeon who did not care if the patient lived. Mrs. Cray clutched her shawl. She said she'd seen lights circling the barn the night before, pale and silent, moving with a mind of their own. Her husband added, voice breaking, "It wasn't wolves. Wolves don't cut, and wolves don't hum." When I asked what he meant, he said he'd felt the vibration in his chest before the lights appeared, a low resonance like a tuning fork struck against bone. I wrote it down. At the time, I told myself it was imagination. That night, we went to the cemetery. The sheriff, his deputy, and I. Black Hollow Cemetery sprawls across a hill at the edge of town. Stones lean at crooked angles. Names faded into illegible scratches. Even by moonlight, it felt wrong. We set ourselves among the graves. The deputy trembled, hand on his rifle. The sheriff spat once, hard, as if daring the night to answer. For a long while, nothing. Only the wind combing the grass. Then the hum began. It wasn't in the air. It was inside me. A pressure behind the eyes, subtle at first, then undeniable. My teeth hurt. My skull felt tight. The deputy whispered he heard voices. The sheriff swore under his breath. And then the lights came. 3 pale orbs, the size of skulls, drifting among the stones. They glowed cold, like phosphorescence on water. First they formed a triangle, then a square, then a pattern no geometry class ever taught. I told myself to stay calm, to record. I set down my tape machine. The reels turned, clicking softly. And then I saw it. Shapes inside the light. Limbs bending at wrong angles. Insect-like silhouettes, jointed and twitching. The sheriff raised his revolver. I begged him not to. He fired anyway. The bullets never struck. They slowed in midair, shimmered, and vanished as if swallowed. The deputy screamed. And then the voice came. It spoke not with sound, but with resonance. A layered, harmonic voice, each word vibrating against my bones. "We were here before you named this land. You bury your dead in our beacon field. Move them, or we move you." I asked what it meant. There was no reply. Only the hum, growing sharper, forcing us to our knees. And then, silence. The lights were gone, but the message remained. The next morning, we gathered in the church. I played the tape for the townsfolk. You could hear the voice, faint, distorted, but unmistakable. Men clenched their hats. Women prayed under their breath. The sheriff declared we would exhume the bodies, move the graves to another field. It was either that or risk the lights moving us. So we set to work. Shovels clanged against earth. Coffins were lifted carefully into crates. The sheriff read each name aloud, as if to remind the dead they were not forgotten. The hum returned with every body we moved. Always there, watching, waiting. By nightfall, half the cemetery was empty. That's when Jed Hooper, one of the diggers, wandered to the far hedge, where flat stones lay without names. He called to the sheriff, said the ground felt strange. I turned and saw the lights appear, 3 pale flames merging into a single column. Jed vanished in an instant. No scream. Only a shadow burned into the grass and the smell of ozone. The sheriff swore through his teeth and shouted, "We keep moving the dead!" We carried on into the night, hands blistered, backs breaking. By midnight, only the nameless stones remained. They had no dates, no inscriptions, just weathered slabs sinking into moss. The hum tightened like a wire around my throat. The lights dropped low, and the voice came again. "These are ours." I understood then. These weren't witches. They weren't criminals. They were the first. The ones who saw the lights centuries ago. Witnesses, silenced, buried without names, turned into legend so the town could forget. The lights had kept them as markers, beacons, memory. We left those stones where they stood. When the final coffin was moved, the hum began to fade. Beneath my boots, I felt a shift, subtle, like the earth itself was aligning with something vast and unseen. The voice whispered one last time. "We navigate by memory. The way your dead mark your lives. Our stones mark our sky." Then it was gone. I returned to the college with the reels, labeled BH51. Most nights they play only static. But sometimes, on stormy nights when the air tastes of tin, the hum comes through. And with it, that pressure behind the eyes. I think about Black Hollow often. The townsfolk never speak of witches now, only of the night the graves were moved. And I wonder how many other cemeteries sit atop beacons mistaken for folklore. How many stories we call superstition are really warnings, retold until the reason was lost. I was a man of science. I believed in proof, in patterns, in cause and effect, but I also heard the voice. And I know now, not every ghost is a ghost, and not every grave is empty.